Hello and welcome. Today we're going to talk about getting unstuck. Now, I know that sounds weird to talk about that at the very beginning of the year because we've all made our plans and set our goals, but during a year, as we've made our plans, there are seasons where we just feel like we get stuck. We started out at A and we want to get to B, but somewhere in between we got stuck. So today I want to talk to you about how to keep from getting stuck and how to get unstuck when you are stuck.
Welcome to Life in Leadership with David Gadberry. We're excited that you're joining our leadership community. There's a lot of information about leadership, but a lot of times it's too sterile for real life. Life is messy and leadership can be messy. Here we talk about real leadership in the context of real life. If you're a leader looking for tips, insight, and wisdom on leadership, you can follow David on social media. And for upcoming group coaching experiences and more, go to gadberry.org. David is the lead pastor of Summit Church in Canyon, Texas, and we would love to invite you to be a part. For more information, go to yoursummitchurch.com. This is the Life and Leadership Podcast.
Man, I'm so glad you're with us today, and I just want to take a few minutes and just share this. I really believe it's going to be helpful to you as a leader, and I know that all of us have big plans for 2020, and I know I see everybody doing 2020 vision, and I think it's a great, fun way to do it. But, when you start out a year and you decide you're going to have goals and you know where you're going to try to go and what you're going to try to achieve, everything seems really exciting and you want to make it, you want it to be effective, you want it to be powerful. And in your mind, you see yourself getting from point A to point B. And one of the things that's very interesting and why we should engage in strategic planning is because a lot of times we get these ideas, we think them through, and we assume that just because it's a good idea and it's put together well and we're going to cast a vision for it, that it's just going to happen. And the truth is, yes, that vision's going to be cast. People are going to grab a hold of it. They're going to own it. You guys are going to run for it. But there are going to be moments where we get stuck. There are going to be moments where we're challenged by circumstances, when things that we thought would work one way don't work that way and we have to try it another way. There are going to be successes that send us in a trajectory that we didn't expect, that we have to figure out, am I going to seize this or is it really not the right thing and is it going to be a distraction? There are going to be times where you just fail and things go down and you have to rebuild and reset and try again. That's real life, and that's the way it really works. And it would be great if we could just set a goal, say this is what's going to happen, we're excited, and here's our vision, and then on the end of it, it just happened. But the truth is, it doesn't work that way. And so today, I just want to talk to you about maybe some things about why we get stuck, why we fail to finish, and how we can make sure that when we do get stuck, we get ourselves unstuck. And it's very important. All of us, every single one of us, at one point or another, have come to a place in life where we personally or organizationally, we just stop and we get stuck. And by stuck, I simply mean, I kind of put a definition down what stuck means to me. And here's what it means. It simply means just not moving forward, getting in a rut. I heard somebody say one time that a rut is nothing more than a grave with the ends knocked out. And I think that's true. I think when we get in a rut and we cease to move, we've kind of just died on our feet and something's got to change. We need to resurrect that dream and resurrect those methods to get us where we need to go. It means you got started at point A, but you stopped before you got to point B. And there are all kinds of different reasons why we get stuck. And here's some of those reasons why we get stuck. One is we get used to the status quo. Now, this is such a reality, and you know it and I know it, and sometimes we don't remember it, but it's the truth, that especially if we have a good year. Like if 2019 was a great year for you, you can go into 2018 and just be comfortable. And just be like, I love the way this feels. I love the atmosphere. I love the culture we've developed. I love the things we've accomplished. But I've heard people say that the greatest challenge or competition or enemy of future success is current success. And I believe that with all of my heart. We can learn from our failures in the past, and we sometimes get caught up and get stuck in those failures too. And we can't seem to get beyond them. But a greater enemy to our future success is our current success, because we develop a status quo. That mountain that you used to be climbing up, that summit of the mountain that you were trying to climb up to get to, at some point you arrive there and it becomes a plateau. And if you don't have dreams, passions, visions, practical understanding of what the next peak is, then you can get really comfortable with that plateau and you can just camp out there and put your tent up and build your fire and get your food out and just be like, hey, this is great, man. We could just stay here for a while. And when we get caught up in that status quo, it could cause us to just stop growing, stop developing, and in essence, we're just stuck. And so what does it mean to get used to the status quo? It's a sense of convenience and comfort, not contentment. I believe in contentment. I believe one of the biggest problems in the world, in the Western world, is discontent. Like, we're never happy. We're never satisfied. But we confuse that with a desire to grow. I can be content with where I'm at and still be passionately reaching for more. But if I'm discontent, that no matter where I'm at, I'm constantly needing something else to make me feel happy or make me feel confident or make me feel motivated. And content, when you're a content leader, you can move from one level to the next and just grow and be healthy and not strive over it. It can be a very good thing. But what we do, instead of getting content, we get a sense of convenience and comfort. And we know how hard it was to try. We know how hard it was to get to where we are. We know the stress of it. We know the challenge of it. We know the problems of it. And it's like, sometimes if you've taken some risk and you've taken some hits on the chin, you're just like, you feel, wow, I could just stay here for a while and not have to deal with that. But the truth is, if you're going to get to the higher places in your purpose, you have to take on the risks. You have to count the cost. You have to develop the way to get there, and then you have to get there. And so the second thing is that causes us to get used to status quo is the stretch of the past becomes the norm for the present. The stretch of the past becomes the norm for the present. Because when you grow and you develop things that you used to have to stretch for, you no longer have to stretch for because you've had that experience. You've achieved that. We do global reach events all the time, and we've had moments where we've really put it on the line, and we've had to risk, and we've had to step out in faith, and we've had to be challenged, and I'll tell you, there's very little right now going global that I have a problem with, or I struggle with, or I'm afraid of, simply because I've enlarged my capacity by doing it, by having those experiences, by stepping out in faith, by taking risks, by taking chance, by working hard. But I can tell you this, that I could just go, hey, let's just keep doing this right here, and let's just stay in this pocket, and let's just not get outside this. Let's not risk anymore. Let's just stay comfortable right here. And that can be okay for a season, but at some point, your plateau becomes your grave. At some point, your rut takes over your life and steals your future from you. The second thing is, reasons we get stuck is we lose sight of the ultimate vision. We get stuck in the weeds. We start paying attention to things that aren't really as important. We see only what we're responsible for, and we don't look at the big picture, and we get distracted by all the things happening around us, and we lose sight of the ultimate vision. When we lose clarity about what it is we're trying to accomplish, that can cause us to get stuck. I know a lot of people that go through this. They just lose clarity. They just can't see it anymore. It's kind of cloudy. The vision is cloudy, and it's kind of in a position where you just feel like, I can't see. I don't know where I'm going. I knew where I was going, but now I don't know where I'm going. So we lose sight of the ultimate vision. Or we get caught up in the what, forgetting the why. When you have a dream and you start out and you say, this is why I'm doing this. This is my motivation. This is what my heart feels. This is the challenge, and we're going for it. And it's very clear. But then when you get caught up in doing the thing that needs to be done to get you where you want to go, facing the challenges, facing the struggles, going through the fight, then all of a sudden your priorities can shift and it becomes all about just getting it done, just getting it done. And you can get into that mode so much that you forget why you're doing it. I see this happen a lot. And what ultimately happens is you slow to stuck because you have lost your motivation because you do not know why you're doing it anymore. It's so easy for it to happen. And these are reasons why we get stuck. Another reason why we get stuck is we get great at our specialty, but we lose sight of the overall big picture. We want to be excellent at our part of the vision, and we should be excellent of what we are responsible for. But the greatest thing you could do as a part of your team is not just to be excellent at what you're good at and what you're gifted at and what you're responsible for, but to think of that through the lens of the big picture of what the whole organization is trying to accomplish. And that way you keep moving forward. You know what's important. You don't get sidetracked or even tunnel vision. Another part of getting great at your specialty but losing sight of the big picture is we lose interest in all the pieces it takes to make the puzzle. We can become possessive. We can become territorial. We can be protective of what we see as ours. And then it becomes this weird competition between us and other people in our own organization, and it gets us stuck as an organization because now we're not moving forward. We're not playing together. I say something, and I have a resource that we created called The Power of We. And it's the idea that we bring all of our talents, all of our abilities, all of our expertise to the table and gather it with everybody else's talents and expertise and abilities, and we become a much more powerful entity. And I always say this, to be a part of we does not diminish me. And a lot of times we think if I'm going to be a part of a group or collectively bring what I have to the table to make the team better, then somehow I have to lose my individuality to do that. But the truth is sometimes we can get so caught up in our individuality and lose sight of the big picture that we make everything about ours. Especially in church ministry, you can get different departments in church ministry, and you can get to this point so much that when someone gets funds for something they've been waiting on and they budget it out and they ask for and requested, you can get mad. Well, why aren't we getting what we ask for? And why don't we have? Because in church ministries you don't have unlimited budgets, and so you have to make decisions and set priorities. And instead of being happy for a department because they're finally getting what they needed, you're upset and angry. Why? Because you're being possessive and territorial and protective. This gets an organization stuck. You cannot move forward if you're in internal conflict with one another. It just won't happen. You can be encouraging to one another. You can stir each other up. You can lift each other. But if you get in this weird competition where you're conflicted with one another because of your own self-centered mentality, you go nowhere. You're stuck. And then the last way we get stuck is we enjoy some success and accept good at the expense of great. We get some success and we accept the good at the expense of the great. In this kind of mentality, comfort is king and passive is peace. We just let it go. We just let it ride. We love that we are succeeding. We love that we've gotten to this point. And man, everything else doesn't matter. And what happens is then you settle in, like I was talking earlier, and what used to be your summit has now become your plateau, and it doesn't take any effort to be there, and it feels good. But at some point, and I think in life, John Maxwell says something that all great things that have any value or worth, are uphill. And the problem with us sometimes is we have downhill habits. And I think that gives us a good picture because life isn't a plateau. At some point, that plateau is going to give way. And you're not just going to stay where you are. You're going to begin to decline. You're going to begin to slide down the mountain simply because you have settled. You don't want to settle and accept the good at the expense of the great. And if you're going to be great, you have to keep moving forward, keep setting goals, keep making progress. It's very important. You know, we've all been there, and the sad part is many people stay there. I see businesses that have failed simply for this. It makes me mad. It's what I've watched teams do this, and I'm telling you, it drives me crazy. Every time I see it, I know there's a strategy to some people doing this, but I'm just going to tell you, how many times have we seen our favorite college team or our favorite pro team, instead of playing to win, they start playing not to lose. It drives you crazy. And that's what I mean by accepting the good at the expense of the great. You know, instead of just pouring it on and continuing to grow and continuing to develop and continuing to, get more points and take that thing where it can go and, crush your opponent, as it were, if you're thinking about sports. Instead of doing that, we go, hey, here we are. We've got a good lead. Let's just hold it. Let's maintain it. Let me just tell you, in leadership, in growth, in development, in success, in significance, when you get into that maintenance mode, what you've done is you've just put the car in reverse. You don't realize it, and maybe you won't even feel it at first. But if you start playing to maintain instead of playing for progress, then what happens is you start giving way to things that will cause you to fail. And how many times have we seen our team go into that mode, and that's what happens? They fail. They go into that we're going to just pass the ball around. We're just going to slow everything down. We're going to hold everything in check. And somehow the other team gets motivated, and they come back with a roar, and they totally take your team out. Well, that's how life is. And so we have to learn how to really continue to look forward and to grow forward and to move forward. So how do we get unstuck? Number one, I'm going to give you 6 really quick ways of how to get unstuck. And here they are. Number one, lead yourself. A really great distant mentor of mine. I love to read after him. I love to listen to his podcast. His name is Paul Scanlon. If you don't watch his stuff or listen to his stuff, you should. He's one of those guys that is a thinker. And he comes at things from a little bit different perspective. And I really appreciate the way he comes at things. And one of the things that he brings up is the best gift you can give those who work with you is a healthy you. If you're leading other people, the best thing you could give them is a healthy you. And that's the fact. What happens so much of the time is we burn the candles at both ends. We work hard to show we're a part of the team and we're a leader, and we try to get this big persona that everybody can look up and say, oh, look at them, they're so awesome. The problem is we're not healthy. We're not healthy physically or spiritually or financially or in all of these ways. And the first thing you need to do to get unstuck is to start with you. Don't blame shift. Don't look at someone else. Don't say it's an organizational systems problem or whatever. The starting point for being unstuck as an organization is getting unstuck as an individual. And especially if you're the leader. I really believe what John Maxwell says, in a lot of ways, everything rises and falls on leadership. Because when it comes down to it, the leaders are the ones who make the difference. The leaders are the ones that wield the influence. The leaders are the ones that serve the community of the organization. And so it ultimately comes down to us. So start with yourself. Lead yourself. Add value to you. Invest in yourself. Learn, grow, be teachable. Surround yourself with mentors. Be a reader. Be honest with yourself about where you really are. I think the days, in leadership and in ministry and in business and in nonprofits, there were seasons not so long ago where it was all about appearances. It was all about, putting that, show on for people. And a lot of things happen because we misperceived what leadership really was, that we begin to lie to ourselves and exaggerate things and not be honest about things. And here's the bottom line. You can't truly grow to where you want to go if you aren't honest about where you really are. So get honest with yourself so that you can add the appropriate value to yourself so that you can then move forward. And then decide what you want. as a believer, that decision for me always starts with prayer and study of the Word and just asking God, what is your will, God? What do you want? What is your purpose for me? And discovering who God made me to be and just going on that journey. That's where it starts for me. But at some point, I have to say, what am I wanting here? Even with God's informing me, God's Spirit influencing me, what is it that we want to accomplish? And that's one way to get unstuck, is to get yourself to remember again what it is you want, what it is you're trying to achieve, what it is that you want your life to be about. Take that journey in your imagination to the end of your life, asking questions like, what will people actually be able to say about me? What do I want them to be able to say? Take that journey in your imagination to the end of your life and ask yourself, if things are currently the way they are, what will I be regretting then? And so it's just important to have those moments where you add value to yourself, investing in yourself, and reflect and really figure yourself out. And then the second thing is open your life up to a coach. Now, I'm glad that you are a part of our leadership community here. We also offer coaching services, and we'd be more than happy to help coach you through whatever is you're stuck. And what happens is most of the time when we get stuck, it's because we've become unaware of ourselves, and we have blind spots. And, I could sit here and tell you this method or that method or this principle or that principle is going to get you unstuck and help you uncover those blind spots. But the only thing that helps you become aware and helps your self-awareness and helps you figure out what the blind spots are, helps you figure out what you don't know, is a coach in your life. Someone who can come alongside you and see things you don't see. Someone who can come alongside you and ask you some hard questions that can help get you off of high center and get real about your life so that you can move on down the line. There are a lot of great coaches out there. There are a lot of not so great coaches out there too. So as you're making a decision on who you want to be coaching in your life, make sure you have a good idea about what you're trying to achieve and make sure you understand what you want to get out of it so that you get involved with the right people. If we can help you in any way, please go to gadberry.org or just email us at info@gadberry.org, and we would love to get in touch with you and just talk about how we could help if that's what you would like for us to do. But open your life up to a coach, because getting unstuck usually requires an outside perspective. Getting unstuck helps you to figure out what you don't know. And then getting a coach helps you to get out of that place, and we've all been in the leadership place of you can't see the forest for the trees. You're so close to your situation that you can't see what really needs to change or what really needs to happen. Number 3, to get unstuck, discover what keeps you and your organization stuck. Figure out what it is that you keep running into. Now, I say that because I can't even tell you how many times I've experienced this in my own life, and I've seen organizations do this. I've had friends do this, people that I've coached do this. Ministering to people for over 30 years as a pastor, I've seen this over and over and over again. It is absolutely the norm for people to continue to get stuck over the same things. I know that sounds ridiculous because, what was it that Albert Einstein said? He said, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, is the definition of insanity. Well, I believe that a lot of us are just a tad bit insane, because I can't tell you how often this is true, that we get stuck over the same stuff, the same issues, the same circumstances, the same problems, the same blind spots. And it's really just because we don't take the time to think it through and identify what is it that we get that gets us stuck. What is it that brings us to that place of paralyzation? What is it? And most of the time, the reason that people continue to get stuck is because it's the same thing. Maybe it's a lack of discipline in an area. Maybe it's an inability to look at something the way it really is. Maybe it's a perspective issue or our mindset that we refuse to change because of the discomfort that it's going to cause us. So you need to discover what keeps you stuck. Allow the process of letting someone coach you reveal to you what keeps you stuck. This is not a surface process. This isn't something where you can just look at it and go, well, that's it, and we're just going to deal with it. It's usually not that way, because usually what we see is the surface. What we're looking at are the symptoms of the real problem. And what you have to do is get to that problem that keeps you stuck. Not what is the symptom, but what is the disease, and how are we going to cure it? It's not a surface process. This doesn't just happen overnight. You have to dig until you figure it out, and a coach helps with that. The fourth thing is determine a strategy. If I can give you any advice, don't try to change everything at once. I see people making, New Year's resolutions, and I see people making commitments that, this needs to change in my life and that needs to change in my life. And so I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And they make this whole list of major changes that they're going to do in the next 90 days. And the truth is, you're not going to accomplish that. Matter of fact, what will happen is you won't even accomplish one of those things. And the reason is because when you're trying to do everything, you don't do anything. I'm going to say that again. When you're trying to accomplish everything, you don't accomplish anything. And that's the fact. So if you got all this list of things, major changes in your life, you're just going to make all these changes at once. It's not going to happen. So you need to determine a strategy. Don't try to do it all at once. Take steps and get some wins. To have massive change in our lives, we have to have some confidence. And confidence is built on accomplishment. And when you achieve something, that gives light to your motivation. And it causes you to go, I can do this. I can have confidence that I'm able to do this. Why? Because I've already done it. I've done it here. I've done it here. So take steps, get some wins. When you get those wins, no matter how small or how big, celebrate them so that you build confidence, and then go to the next thing, step by step by step. And before long, as all of that consistent discipline compounds on itself, you'll have all this good cultural change in your life that brings great results. And you won't be going through that cycle of every year, I'm going to change, and you don't change. No, just pick something, do it, get it accomplished, take the confidence from that and do the next thing, and then take the next step and consistently do that throughout. And you'll ultimately achieve what you want to achieve. Determine a strategy. Act directly on the issue. Don't act all around it. Don't hint around it. Don't massage it. Don't try to act like you're getting it accomplished, but not really getting it accomplished. Just directly deal with the issue. Make the change that's necessary. Stop talking about it. Stop talking about it. Listen to me. There's too much talk about what needs to happen and not enough action about making it happen. You'll talk yourself into not doing it. That's just the facts. You've experienced that in your own life just as I've experienced it in mine. Think it all the way through to the solution and what you may face to work through it. So when you're thinking about what you're going to do, you're building your strategy, you're developing, don't just think about this is the vision, this is what I'm going to do, so now let's go. Think about what it's going to take to get you from here to there. Think about what you're going to run into as obstacles to get from here to there. Think about what you're going to do as solutions to those obstacles in order to get from here to there. Do you see what I'm saying? Really think it through. Really process it out. Determine a strategy. Number 5, implement that strategy. Why would I even say that? I mean, is that really necessary to say that? Because come on, everybody knows, well, you got to do it. But how many of us don't? We talk about it, we formulate, we build our charts, we set our goals, we set the dates, our schedules are all lined out, then we just don't do it. We pay investments, we get memberships, we set ourselves all up, and then we just don't do it. So once you've got all the strategy, once you've got all the vision, once you've opened your life up to a coach, you're leading yourself and investing in yourself, you're discovering what has got you stuck, you determine a strategy. It is a tragedy. I said tragedy. It is a tragedy when you don't actually implement it. Develop that strategy, but then you have to implement it. And implementation isn't just about trying something. It's being very conscious and very intentional about doing what needs to be done. So act. One of the reasons we remain stuck is we live in the land of theory and we don't act on what we know. Get out of the land of theory. Get out of the land of ideas. At some point, you have to stop thinking about it. And at some point, you have to stop talking about it. And at some point, you just have to do it. And then don't allow yourself any excuses. Implementation often is stopped because we start making excuses of why we can't and why we won't and why we don't and why it's not we're able to do it and why this is never going to happen. Drop the excuses, because most of the reasons that we give for not doing what's necessary, most of those reasons are just excuses. And we all know it, and we just need to suck it up, stop being a victim, and just decide and act. No more excuses. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that's the way you should lead. You shouldn't go into your organization and say, I'm not taking your excuses, and I'm not going to. I'm not saying that that's the way you should coach your team. I'm not saying that's the way you should lead your team. That's probably not going to give you very much success. But as an individual, you should create a culture where people just don't accept excuses from themselves. And I'll tell you, if you become a person who doesn't accept excuses for yourself, the chances are the people who follow you, they won't accept excuses from themselves either, right? So it's very important that we do that. Number 6, evaluate your implementation. That once you've implemented things, you need to stop and say, is this working? The way I'm implementing this strategy, is it the right strategy? Am I implementing it well? Evaluate it, because if it's not succeeding, stop it and change. Know that what you're doing is working. And then secondly, if it is not, go back, dig further, do it again. And you do that as many times as you have to get the job done. So then once you've gotten unstuck, keep your eyes on the horizon and keep moving forward and upward towards your goal. Okay? So I hope this has helped you. And the first part of this is just to acknowledge, hey, sometimes we get stuck. And here's some reasons why we get stuck. And here's what we can do about it. So I hope that's helped you today. Okay, so we had a leadership question come in today, and I definitely love to get questions from people, and I want to do that as much as possible. So please feel free to send your questions in. And I don't know everything. I'm not an expert. I've been doing leadership and ministry and as a company for several years and overall over 30 years. So I do have some experience and I do have some insights, not only just from my own experiences, but from leaders I've gotten to serve with and things that I've had the wonderful privilege to do. God's been too good to me. And so I want to help you in any way I can. So this question today is, how do I properly gauge the performance of those I lead? And that is a great question. And there's so many answers to that question. And one answer I'm going to give you is somebody who is truly excellent in this area is a man by the name of Patrick Lencioni. Now, if you're a follower of leadership at all, you know who Patrick Lencioni is. You've probably read several of his books. You've heard him give talks. He's been at conferences. It's great. He is so good on this level of things. He's so good about how to hire the right people, what you're looking for, how to process that, how to evaluate and make sure everybody's on task and on target. He's really good at that. So I would encourage you to do that. And what we're doing now is we're using one of his methods. So in terms of a formal evaluation, here's how we do it. We let our team know what we're going to evaluate when we come together, and we do this quarterly. We're going to have a meeting quarterly with each person that directly reports, and here's what we're going to do. You're going to bring to that meeting what you feel like you've accomplished in the last quarter and what you're going to try to accomplish in the next quarter. And then the third thing we evaluate is, how are you in alignment with our vision as an organization? How are you in alignment with our vision as an organization? So what happens is then you're not only evaluating or gauging their development and improvement, they're evaluating and gauging their own. And having to have that meeting with you, they know they can't fudge it. And we're all guilty of fudging it. But and you're not just gauging tasks. Okay, you did this, you did that, you did this. You're pretty good at this that's really not helpful. That kind of evaluation is really not helpful for anybody. But what's helpful is to get them engaged in here's what I feel like I've accomplished. And then you can measure that with what they've actually accomplished. And so they can see where gaps are. And then here's what I'm going to try to accomplish. And then you can measure, hey, is that it? Are they really going in the right direction? How can I kind of mold that and help that and engage that? And then you do that every quarter. And then also to keep them aligned with the vision and make sure they're on track with the culture of your organization is you ask them, what are ways that you're in alignment with our vision, and what are ways that you are advancing the culture of this organization? So when you do that, it helps them to contribute. It helps them for you to be able to coach, and then you can just move forward from there. It's a truly great way to do it. And then I would say, we do something in our organization called continual improvement. I think we probably learned this from Andy Stanley. But just have this mindset of continual improvement. And so it's kind of organic. And so it's an ongoing conversation with people who are your direct reports or whoever they directly report to. You create a culture of just kind of ongoing conversations about how things are going. Weekly meetings, just on the job questions of, how's it going? What are challenges that you're having? How are you overcoming that? What are the problems been? What are your solutions? How can you do this better? What do you think about how you're doing in this area? And it's just an ongoing, continually, not a striving, not a punishing, not a getting on to all the time, but just a constant teaching environment, constant coaching environment. And anyone can learn from anyone, and anyone can speak to everyone. And if you have that kind of a culture, then what happens is everybody's kind of continually moving forward. And when someone gets stuck, they don't stay stuck very long because you have a continual improvement environment and it sticks out like a sore thumb, and then you're able to help. So I hope that answers the question. How do I properly gauge the performance of those I lead? And I think we have to move away from this kind of critical attitude way of evaluating things and really make it an organic, continual discussion and know what we want that measurement tool to be. And I think if you do that, you'll be effective in knowing where people are. And it also calls them to realize if they fit or not, or if they don't fit, or if their season is up and they need to move on, or whatever the case may be. I think that kind of an atmosphere, that kind of a culture takes it there. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much for being a part of Life and Leadership. And if you have any questions, please send them in at info@Gadberry. I think it's connect@Gadberry.org. You can just send questions in there, or you can go to one of our social media sites and send questions there. We'd love to discuss or interact with you in any way that we can to help you in terms of leadership. And I learn a lot as well as we have those discussions. So I want to encourage you to just keep moving forward, add value to yourself, add value to others, make a difference with your life, care about what it is you do, and implement the purpose and intentionality that it takes to become everything you want to become. So thank you. I pray for you, and I'm believing that you're going to reach the potential. You're going to see the potential that's in you, and you're going to reach the potential that's in you. And so let's all just do it together. God bless you. Thanks for being a part.
Thanks for being a part of the Life and Leadership podcast all around the world. We have listeners that are a part of our leadership family in Nigeria, Sweden, South Korea, United Kingdom, and all over the United States. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Castro, Castbox, and Podchaser. For video version of this podcast, you can subscribe on YouTube. Join us next week as we talk about leading your children or adults who have been diagnosed with ADHD.